Hi everyone, I've been wanting to make this video for a while because I meet with a lot of students who are looking for work or people who just graduated and are really anxious about the first job. Maybe they're in the first year of their career, and I can so relate to this because about 5 years ago I got my first job and I've been working full time for about 4 years, and these have been some of the most stressful and uncertain years of my life. So I'm going to tell you about 10 mistakes that I have made and that I hope that you're going to make in your careers, because it can really help just having somebody who can give you a bit of advice who's just been through something like this. And I am by no means a career expert. I know that there are a lot of other very experienced people, but I hope that my very recent experience can shine a bit of a light on what it's like to be a new worker or in the first 5 years of your career. So, also one more thing, I do not like editing videos, so I'm just recording this video from start to finish without anything. So if I sort of look like that, like thinking, or if I say something wrong, I'm going to correct myself in the comments. And of course, do let me know if you have any other ideas, because maybe you have some other amazing tips. Anyway, my first tip, and I guess my first mistake that I made, was limiting myself to my major, because I graduated from a Belarusian state university, and I think it was like Chinese international relations major, and it was mainly linguistics. And when I was looking for work, I was like, wow, I have to find something with languages. It has to be absolutely with languages, or maybe international relations. And I really wanted to find something with Chinese. But when I moved to Poland and started to look for my new job, I realized that actually there aren't many jobs with languages, and most jobs are either in marketing or in sales or something like this, and I just got really confused. And I remember I came to a networking event, and I'll get to networking later, but I came to a networking event and people asked me like, okay, so you're looking for a job, what are you looking for? And I said, well, I'm looking for something with languages. And they said, well, why? This is not specific, you have to be more specific. And of course the reason I said it is because I was limiting myself to a major. So don't just think you have to do exactly what you did at uni. You might be really good at something else. And you know, the first years of your career are just perfect for trying new things. So maybe if you majored in, I don't know, marketing, go and check out sales. If you majored in economics, go and check out, I don't know, whatever, interpreting. If you can do this, I think that whatever comes your way, it's always a good idea to check it out. So don't just limit yourself to one thing necessarily. The second mistake that I have made is wanting to be my own boss, because I was really terrified of an idea of having a boss, because in Belarus, the country where I'm from, people are very controlling and they can be micromanaging, and I heard so many things about bosses and bad relationships and everything, and I thought, oh my god, I'm not getting myself into this. So I decided to open my business and build my own company. But what I didn't realize is that you actually have to have a lot of experience and you have to make a lot of effort to create this business. And for a young person, even though there's like some people that are really good at it from the start, for a young person generally it's not a very good idea, because you don't get to know people, you don't get to build the skills they actually need to succeed. And having worked for somebody in like full time in different organizations, I can't believe that I wanted to be my own boss, and I can't believe that I didn't sort of like that idea, because I've had some absolutely fantastic bosses, and I think I would have missed out a lot if I continued doing my own business, because I tried and it was really difficult. And I've also found that there was nobody else willing to help me, because when you're doing business, you're pretty much on your own. And if you start in a company, generally, I think you're like, somebody takes you under the wing, and you know, they can really teach you something. People can mentor you. So there are a lot more opportunities if you go and work for somebody else, and bosses are not necessarily bad people. So the third mistake that I have made is I was looking for jobs online, and this is something that I have been telling people like all the time, because people are really struggling with a job search. And I ask them like, what have you done? And people say, well, actually, we have been searching online here and there, Indeed, Monster, whatever. And I'm like, guys, 85% of the job or something like this are actually found through online networking or offline networking. And most of the jobs are not shared. And now I'm working full time for a charity. I can tell you, like, whenever we need a person, we do not necessarily think, oh, let's advertise, because actually, if you advertise, you never know who's going to come to you, and it's easier to find somebody if you already know that person. So the first thing we think of is, do we already know somebody who might be good at doing this job? Because it might be easier to get this person on board as a freelancer or maybe as a trial, something like this. But of course, jobs can be found online, but don't rely just on that. When I first came to Poland, I spent about 3 months applying for jobs and then didn't get anywhere. And the only time when I actually got a job was at a networking event. So do not limit yourself just to online websites or, I don't know, newspapers, whatever you use. Do go out there. And this is my fourth mistake. When I first started, I did not network. I thought, well, you know what? I don't need people. Like, I'm just going to be great on my own. I don't need anyone telling me what to do. But actually, networking is just everything. Like, literally everything. If you do not know people, you can't do anything. You can't build a business. You can't find a job. You can't be good at what you're doing. And it's just like, I just think networking is such a basic thing that every single person should be doing. And especially a young person, if you're looking for a job, like, people just get to know you. And what I did is, after my 3 months unsuccessful job search online, I decided, you know what, I had enough. I'm going to just go crazy and go to this networking event. And I was terrified. Like, literally, it was so difficult for me to open up and say, hi, my name is Sofia, and talk to people. But very soon people got to know me, and I came every week, and it was really positive. And eventually, I think at my fourth or fifth meeting, somebody noticed me and offered me an interview. And straight in the interview, they offered me a job because they saw me at that networking event. And thus, I got the invitation to start the job. And this was my first job, by the way. So definitely, whether it's online or whether it's just on LinkedIn, go and network. It's so important to just put yourself out there. And even if you're afraid, even if you think, oh my god, I'm gonna make a fool out of myself, honestly, you're not. There are like hundreds of young people who do not know about this. So don't make this mistake and go and network straight away, and I'm sure you'll be very successful in your job search and whatever you decide to do, really. Now, the fifth tip is, actually, I think it's the fourth one, is being overly ambitious about your salary. And this is like at this stage when you really get a job and you're like, oh yeah, I'm so cool, you know, because I think graduates, and I speak from like my own experience, so maybe you're a bit more humble than I am. But when I first started looking for a job, I was really ambitious about my salary. I came to Poland and I thought, you know what, I really want to be making this sum of money because it sounded cool and it's something that I saw other people were earning, not like necessarily thinking of their experience. And I came up to my first employer and I said, this is how much I want. And they said, you know what, you're not getting it because you don't have enough experience because of this and that. And I got really disappointed and actually felt devalued. But actually, I didn't have to feel this way, because when you're a graduate, you're in a known quantity, you don't have any experience or maybe very little experience. People don't know you. You don't have a reputation, you don't have a personal brand. Why would people want to pay you more? Of course, don't work for peanuts. I mean, sometimes you probably have to, but you know, don't necessarily work for free if you can avoid it, but don't request a really high salary from the start. You can always grow it later, and I will speak about it later in the video, but honestly, almost like take whatever they're offering, just ask around how much other graduates are earning, maybe think how much I need to cover my expenses to have this argument. And of course it's a completely different topic, a salary negotiation. You can look it up on YouTube, but just don't sort of ask for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds, because you're not gonna get that as a graduate. Later, of course, do be ambitious, but not as your first job. The fifth advice, I guess. You know what? I completely lost track of this. The sixth advice is not having a career plan. And this is something that I didn't actually have for a very long time. I just knew I wanted to be really good at something. I wanted to be famous, rich, whatever. And I didn't really have a detailed year-by-year career plan. And of course, you're not going to fulfill this year by year and month by month. You know, things are going to change for you. But do you have some idea where you want to go? And don't just sit in one place just because you're paid well and just because you like it, or you're afraid to leave, or you're afraid you're not going to get another job. Sit down with your boss, sit down with your friend, sit down with your advisor, I don't know, your parent, and think like, where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 3 years time? And think, what skills are you going to have to learn to get there? This is something I didn't do for quite a long time. I was just a bit sort of, I just get any job at this moment and I just want to be good at what I do. But don't forget that nobody is going to push you in a direction that you did not set for yourself. Otherwise, you'll just end up maybe being in the same role all the time, or maybe going somewhere you don't want to go, really. The next tip, and I'm not going to use numbers because I got completely confused. The next tip is not asking for advice. And I don't necessarily mean a mentor, because I think this word mentor is really overused. And the best thing really is just ask for advice. And it's so simple, like anyone can give you advice. Like even if you message me now in the comments, I can give you some advice. Or maybe you can message your boss, I don't know, whoever. Anyone can answer any question really. And the type of advice that I didn't ask when I started out was, how do I build a good relationship with my boss? Or how do I build a good relationship with my colleagues? Or how do I become a better worker in the next 6 months? I just worked and hoped that I was good enough, but I never asked for advice as to how can I improve, and how they saw me improving really in the next year. So the best thing to do is just to message people. Don't ask them to be your mentor. Just say, hey, my name is this and this, and maybe you're asking this person because they wrote an article, or they just really know in this field, so they're very experienced in your industry, and just ask them something, just one thing, and maybe they'll even agree to have a phone call with you, because I think people really like sharing, just like me filming this video, because they don't want others to commit the same mistakes as them, and of course they want others to succeed, and they also want to feel a part of their success. So definitely don't be afraid. And the next tip is kind of connected to this one, is not speaking out enough. And this is a problem of many people, not just young people, but I would say the young people struggle with this most. Now, what I mean by not speaking out enough, and I have a very good situation to share with you about this. So when I first got a job in Poland, I was offered a salary which I wasn't really happy with, and I asked the person who hired me, I said, hey, can I earn more? And they said, you know what, you can if you work really well for a month, and if you can see that you're producing results, I can give you a bit more money on top of that. And I thought, you know what, that's not a bad salary, I can live with that. But a month's time has passed, and guess what? That person never mentioned anything, and I didn't mention anything either. Now, the person probably forgot, or maybe they didn't forget, I don't know. However, I didn't forget. I knew the exact day I was going to ask for that, and I didn't because I was afraid the person would think I'm greedy, or the person would think that I just think about the salary. No, no, no. If somebody promised something to you, if they really explicitly said, yes, like, I'm going to give this to you, I can offer this to you, or there is a possibility, go back and ask, because honestly, like, nobody is going to work thinking, oh my god, I have to help Sofia to do this and that. They think about their own careers, they think about their own companies, especially if they're a manager, they have a lot of responsibility, so they probably just forget about things that they promise. So do keep a note of everything that was promised to you, that was offered, all the opportunities, and speak out about it. Do you need some training? Like, do you feel you're not really competent? Go to your boss and say, hey, is there any training budget? Can I do this course, please? Even if they say no, like, honestly, just ask. And if you keep asking, eventually they'll probably say yes. I found that people usually need a couple of times to understand, but actually when you go and ask, you portray yourself as a responsible team member and as a worker who wants to improve. So whether it's salary, whether it's education, whether it's, I don't know, time in lieu, anything, any doubts that you have, always go ahead and ask, because, like, don't repeat my mistake. I could have had a bigger salary for some time and I didn't, because I didn't speak out. So always speak out. You'll never be faulted for that. The next tip is not being patient enough. And oh my god, like, this is my mistake number one, because I'm a very ambitious person and I just want everything. Like, when I started my career, I thought, oh my god, I'm not developing enough. Like, a month into my job, I was like, oh no, I'm not growing enough. I have to be doing more things. And the problem is that when you first start out, and actually anyone, when they start a new job, it can be quite, the progress can be quite slow. You won't develop all the necessary skills in a month's time, in a week's time. It might take half a year, 2 years until you actually feel really good at your position. Apparently, you're supposed to spend 2 years in your organization to truly understand what your role is. So don't think about promotions. Don't think about, like, how can I get sort of develop quicker? How can I become a CEO, or, I don't know, the president as soon as possible? Just don't have this pressure on yourself, because you will eventually become, like, if you're ambitious enough, you will eventually achieve your goals with hard work, but it will take time. So definitely keep the goal at the back of your mind, but don't necessarily think, oh my god, I have to be, like, doing this right now. And I'm still learning to be more patient, and I think I'm a lot more patient than I used to be. And I hope that this is something you can relate to and my tip helped you. The last tip is probably the most important of all, is not figuring out what you're good at and what your strengths are. It's actually quite difficult, because I think for me especially, when I started working, nobody ever told me what I'm good at. People said, oh, well, you're a good writer. Oh, well, you're good at languages. Oh, your English is impressive. Oh, like, I don't know, whatever. You speak Chinese, how cool. And I just thought, whatever, it's just so easy for me. And I just really struggled to ask for feedback. Now, the best thing I've done is I actually took, like, a coaching course. And during the course, we figured out what our strengths and weaknesses were. And we had to ask a bunch of people to give us an overview of our strengths and weaknesses and things we could improve. And it's interesting, but I have found a couple of things that I never even thought of. And this is not a one-time exercise, and you don't necessarily have to take a course. You can just buy a book, and I'll recommend some in the description. You have to be doing this every single year, or maybe even more often, just to understand how you're changing what you're good at. For example, before I thought I was really disorganized and I just never actually understood what I was good at and something like this. And then now I can see that I have really good organizational ability, that I can really sort of analyze things and understand how they connect to different things, and they can bring people together to manage projects. And this is something that is helping me in my role big time, not necessarily my language skills, even though they do help as well. But I know this as a result of constantly asking people, what do you think I'm good at? What do you think I'm good at? What do you think I can improve? So definitely understand this, because if you don't understand what you're good at, you might be able to market yourself successfully. You will find that you're constantly talking to people and they're asking you about your strengths, but you don't actually know what to answer. And I'll definitely make an interview video, because I'm really passionate about interviews and job hunting. However, this tip of finding what you're good at is really important, because if you find what you're good at, you will know exactly what kind of career you want, and you'll be happier in what you're doing as well, because you'll do it better and you know that you're doing really well. Anyway, so these were the tips, and do let me know if maybe there's something else you struggle with, or maybe you have already had some working experiences and you found that I don't know, you've learned something and you made a mistake. Please do share, because it might help some people. And if you have any other tips or anything you can add to my tips, please do comment. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this first video on my channel, and let me know if you have any questions. Bye!